The security footage was still playing when my hands stopped shaking enough to actually watch it. I'd gone back to the office at 9:47 on a Tuesday. I remember the time exactly because I checked my phone right before I badged in, annoyed at myself for forgetting my laptop charger. The kind of stupid, ordinary errand that changes everything. I grabbed the charger from my desk, noticed the light in the conference room was on, assumed someone had forgotten to hit the switch, and left. I didn't think about it again until Thursday morning when our office manager mentioned she needed to check the security camera logs because something had been moved in the storage room. We use a shared system, nothing fancy, just a cloud-based setup our building management installed after a break-in 2 floors down. As the senior account director, I had access. She didn't need me to pull it, but I was already logged in. I don't know what made me scroll back to Tuesday night. Maybe I knew. Some part of me. The part that had been quietly cataloging things for months. The way my husband had started showering before I woke up. The conference calls he took standing in the driveway. The slight pause before he answered simple questions. Maybe that part already knew and just needed proof. The timestamp read 9:52 p.m., 5 minutes after I left. My husband's car was in the parking garage. I could see the corner of it in the camera's edge. And walking across the lobby, close enough that their shoulders kept touching, were my husband and a woman I recognized immediately. She'd been at our wedding. She gave a toast. She is my coworker. Was my coworker. She'd joined our firm 8 months ago, transferred from the Houston branch, and everyone loved her immediately. She was warm and funny and remembered everyone's coffee order. My husband had met her at the firm holiday party in December. He'd said afterward that she seemed nice. I sat at my desk for 40 minutes watching a 2-minute clip on loop. Then I forwarded it to my personal email, cleared the browser history, picked up my laptop charger, and drove home. My husband was already in bed. The lamp on his nightstand was off. He was on his side, facing the wall, and when I slid under the covers, he made a small, sleepy sound and didn't move. I lay on my back in the dark for a long time, listening to him breathe, thinking about how I had spent 3 years building a life with someone I apparently did not know at all. We met in our mid-20s, me fresh out of a marketing master's program, him 2 years into his career at a commercial real estate firm. We were introduced by a mutual friend at a barbecue in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is exactly as unglamorous as it sounds. He was the kind of person who listened when you talked, really listened, not just waiting for his turn to speak. I fell for that first. Everything else came after. We bought our condo in Jersey City 4 years ago. We have a joint checking account, a shared Netflix login, and a rescue dog named Fig who sleeps at the foot of the bed and has never once been on time for anything. We are, on paper, fine. More than fine. We are the couple people point to when they want an example of something working. That's the thing they kept folding in on itself as I lay there in the dark. We weren't fighting. There wasn't a specific moment I could point to and say, that's when it started. Which is somehow worse. If there had been a blowout, a betrayal I'd caused or contributed to, at least there would be a story that made sense. Instead, I just had a parking garage and a 2-minute video and a husband who remembered to buy my brand of sparkling water without being asked. I did not sleep. In the morning, I got up before he did, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table with my phone while Fig pressed his face against my shin. I Googled things I never thought I would Google. What counts as evidence in New Jersey divorce proceedings? How to hire a private investigator? Whether footage from a security camera at your own workplace is admissible? I did not cry yet. That came later. What I felt then was something colder. A specific kind of clarity that I have since heard described by other women who have been in this position. Everything unnecessary falls away. You stop caring about the things that don't matter, and you focus, almost mechanically, on the things that do. The first thing that mattered was documentation. I spent the next 2 weeks doing nothing outwardly different. I went to work. I came home. I made dinner twice a week because that was my contribution to our division of labor, and I made it well. And I sat across from my husband at our kitchen table and had ordinary conversations about ordinary things. I asked him how a deal was going. He asked about a client pitch I was running. We watched television afterward on the couch, and Fig sat between us, and nothing about it looked like what it was. I found a private investigator through a referral from a woman in an online forum I'd found at 2 in the morning. I'm not proud of the hours I spent on that forum. I'm also not sorry. Those women saved me months of mistakes. The investigator I hired, a woman in her late 50s who worked out of an office in Montclair, charged $1,400 a week and spoke to me like I was a competent adult, which I needed more than I realized. She confirmed what the security footage had suggested within 10 days. She also provided me with a timeline that went back further than I'd expected. Not months. Closer to a year. I sat in a Panera booth in Livingston, New Jersey, reading her report on my phone, and I felt the floor drop out from under a version of my life I would never get back. I called my attorney from the parking lot. I want to stop here and say something about my attorney because she matters to this story more than she probably knows. I found her the same way I found the PI, through that forum, through women who had already walked this road and left notes along the way. She is meticulous and sharp, and she has a gift for explaining things without making you feel stupid or small. Her first question in our very first call was not about what had happened. It was about what I wanted the outcome to be. I hadn't been asked that yet. I didn't have an answer. She said that was fine and told me to take a few days. I used those days to think clearly for the first time since the parking garage. And what I decided, what I came to slowly and with a great deal of sitting on the bathroom floor, is that I was not going to blow this up out of rage. I was going to be deliberate. I was going to protect myself financially and legally before I said a single word to my husband. Because I had seen enough stories, real ones from real women, to know that the moment you reveal what you know, you lose the advantage of knowing it. Our condo had appreciated significantly since we bought it. We had joint investment accounts, a joint savings account, and a retirement fund my husband's firm contributed to on his behalf. We had 3 years of joint tax returns. There was money to protect. There was a future to protect. I was not going to walk into that conversation empty-handed. My attorney began drafting a post-nuptial agreement, which is what you pursue in New Jersey when you don't have a prenup and you want to formalize asset division before filing. It's not commonly known that this is an option. It was the single most useful thing anyone told me in that entire period. The agreement, once signed, would give me a clearly defined share of the condo equity and the investment accounts, regardless of how acrimonious things became later. The question was how to get my husband to sign it. My attorney was characteristically direct. She said, "He'll sign it if he believes signing it is less destructive than not signing it." We were not going to threaten. We were not going to blackmail, but we were going to be honest. Carefully, precisely, strategically honest about what I knew and what I intended to do with it. My husband's firm has a morality clause for senior associates. His co-worker's firm, my firm, has a formal conflict of interest policy. Neither of them had disclosed the relationship. Both of them were, technically, in violation of policies that could affect their employment. I knew this. My attorney knew this, and we agreed that my husband should know that I knew at the right moment in the right room with the right documents already prepared. We scheduled the conversation for a Saturday morning in late February. My attorney's office, not our home. I had told my husband I needed him to come to a meeting with me, that it was about a financial matter, that he should bring his ID. He assumed it was about our taxes, which we'd been meaning to address. He said, "Sure, no problem," and I drove us there in my car and he made a comment about traffic on Route 46. I don't remember walking into the building. I remember my attorney's face, which was calm and focused, and I remember my husband sitting down and looking around the conference room and starting to understand that this was not about taxes. She slid the folder across the table. She explained clearly what it contained, what I knew, what had been documented, and what the potential professional consequences were for the parties involved if the matter became public through formal complaints rather than private resolution. She was not unkind. She also did not leave room for maneuvering. My husband did not speak for a very long time. When he did, the first thing he said was my name. Just my name. I don't know what he expected to follow it. An opening maybe, or permission to explain. He didn't get either. My attorney told him he was welcome to review the documents with his own counsel before signing, and that we could reconvene in a week. He could take the folder with him, We would wait. He took the folder. He did not hire his own attorney. He signed the post-nuptial agreement 8 days later. I wish I could tell you that moment felt like winning. It didn't. I sat in my car in my attorney's parking lot after it was done, and I cried for the first time since the parking garage. Really cried. The kind that surprises you because you didn't know there was that much still waiting. I had been so focused on being strategic, on being careful, on not doing anything I'd regret, that I hadn't made room for any of the grief. It came all at once in that parking lot, and Fig was at home on the couch waiting for me, and I just let it come. We filed for divorce in March. Uncontested, ultimately, which is the gift of good documentation and a signed agreement. I moved out of our condo in April into a rental in Maplewood that was too expensive and had a parking situation that made me insane. And I took Fig and my kitchen stuff and the good olive oil and I left. I want to tell you about the day I found out about his coworker's brother, because that part of the story still feels like something I made up. It was June. The divorce was moving through the court system. I was at a work happy hour I had almost skipped when a woman from our analytics team, someone I barely knew, mentioned that the woman from Houston had left the firm. Not fired. Left. Voluntarily. Which honestly surprised me, because I'd expected HR to have some opinion about the matter. She'd moved back to Texas. Her family was there, including, apparently, a brother who had been working as a freelance contractor in New York, and was the one who had put her in touch with our firm's HR in the first place, as a reference. The same brother who had, in a genuine coincidence that I could not have scripted, sat across from me at a company vendor meeting 9 months earlier, when his firm was pitching us on a project management tool. I hadn't remembered him, but my coworker, the woman from HR who told me this, said that he had come in to collect his sister's things from her desk, just a box, personal items, and that before he left, he had asked her to please pass something along to me. The message was this. He was sorry for his part in it. He said he had introduced his sister to our firm as a professional courtesy, and that he'd had no idea what had developed. When he found out, when he understood the full situation, he had, quietly, made sure that the PI I hired had what she needed to complete her report. He'd confirmed details he hadn't been asked to share. He said he believed in doing the right thing even when it cost him something, and that his sister's choices were her own, but so were his. I stood in that bar holding a glass of wine I hadn't touched, and I did not know what to do with that information. I went home and sat on my kitchen floor and told Fig about it, because that's where I am in life right now, telling things to a dog on a kitchen floor in Maplewood, and it is fine. It is genuinely fine. Fig is an excellent listener. He has no opinions about postnuptial agreements. I thought about the brother for a long time after, not romantically. I want to be clear about that because this is not that story. I thought about him because he had a choice to make, and he made the harder one, and that is not as common as it should be. He could have said nothing. He could have stayed out of it. Instead, he walked into a situation that implicated his own family and chose honesty over loyalty to someone who hadn't earned it. That means something to me. It still does. My divorce was finalized in August. I got my share of the condo equity, which, given where Jersey City prices have been, was not nothing. I got a fair portion of the investment accounts. I got Fig officially, in writing, which my attorney tells me she was particularly pleased about because not every judge takes the pet question seriously. I quit the Maplewood apartment in September and moved to a 2-bedroom in Montclair. Slightly less parking chaos, better access to the park, close enough to that forum-recommended PI's office that I felt like I had come full circle. My sister flew in from Denver for the weekend and helped me unpack, and we ordered pizza and sat on the floor of the empty living room, and she told me I seemed like myself again, which was the nicest thing anyone said to me all year. I am not going to tell you that I've healed or that everything is good now, because I don't know that yet, and I don't think you should trust anyone who claims to know that on a timeline. What I know is that I am sleeping through the night again. I know that Fig has claimed the left side of the new couch, and I let him because it makes him happy and life is genuinely too short. I know that I made the right decisions when I needed to make them, and that I did not let rage or humiliation drive me into choices I would spend years walking back. What I have learned, if I'm being honest, is this. The moment you find out, your first instinct will be to react, to confront. To make the person in front of you understand immediately that you know. That instinct is human and understandable, and I would encourage you, with every piece of hard-won wisdom I have, to resist it. Not forever, not even for very long, but long enough to understand what you have, what you want, and what kind of ground you are standing on when the conversation finally happens. The other thing I have learned is that people will surprise you, not often and not always in ways that help you. But sometimes a stranger will look at a situation and choose to do the right thing when they had every reason not to. That doesn't fix anything, but it's a thing worth knowing, that it happens. My attorney sent me a bottle of wine when the paperwork was finalized. A good one. Nothing showy, just something she said she liked and thought I might too. I opened it on a Friday night in my new living room, with Fig asleep on his side of the couch, and the windows opened to the September air, and I poured a glass and sat with it for a while. I didn't toast to anything in particular. I didn't need to. Some endings don't require a speech. Sometimes you just sit quietly with a glass of wine in a room that is yours, and that is enough. I think about the parking garage a lot, not the footage itself. I've stopped replaying that, but the moment just before I scrolled back to Tuesday night. The moment when I still didn't know. There was a version of me that existed in that moment, who had no idea her life was about to split in half, and I have a strange tenderness for her now. She was tired. She just wanted her laptop charger and to go home. What I've come to understand is that nothing that happened to me was random, not the good parts and not the devastating ones. My husband made choices quietly and consistently over the course of a year. I made choices too, to document before I confronted, to find counsel before I acted, to sit with the grief instead of letting it drive me somewhere I couldn't walk back from. Those choices had consequences. All of them did. That's not poetic justice or fate or anything mystical. It's just the basic arithmetic of how actions accumulate. You do enough of something, and eventually there's a result. The question is whether you're paying attention when it arrives. The thing that stayed with me longest was her brother. A stranger who had every practical reason to stay out of it. It was messy, it implicated his family, it cost him something, and who chose anyway to do the right thing. I don't know exactly what it cost him in terms of his relationship with his sister. I didn't ask and probably shouldn't, but he made a decision based on what he believed was true and fair, not on what was convenient or comfortable. That takes something. It takes a kind of moral clarity that most people talk about having, and very few actually demonstrate, when the moment is real and the stakes are personal. I was not always that clear-headed. There were nights in the Maplewood apartment when I wanted to burn the whole situation down, not strategically, not legally, just emotionally, just to make someone feel what I was feeling. I didn't, partly because my attorney is very good at her job and I trusted her, and partly because I understood, somewhere in the part of me that was still thinking clearly, that acting from pure rage would have cost me more than it cost anyone else. Intelligence in a crisis isn't about being cold. It's about knowing the difference between what feels satisfying and what actually serves you. And then there's the part that nobody talks about, which is the endurance of it. The months of sitting at that kitchen table having ordinary conversations while carrying something that heavy. The weeks of doing nothing outwardly different while everything inside was being quietly reconstructed. That's not dramatic. It doesn't make for a good scene. But it's the part that actually determined the outcome. Not the confrontation in the conference room, not the signing of the documents. The long, unglamorous middle where I just kept going. Fig is asleep on his side of the couch as I write this. The windows are open. Montclair in the fall is genuinely beautiful, and I find, to my surprise, that I am okay. Not fixed, not finished, but okay in a way that feels earned rather than given. I think that distinction matters. Some things you can only arrive at by going through them, not around them. The clarity, the patience, the willingness to keep moving even when it's hard, none of that was there at the beginning. It grew because it had to. That's the only version of the story I know how to tell honestly.